Hello there, and welcome to episode 3 of my tutorial series for Rimworld Biotech. We're going to last through a pretty problematic phase this time. So we're still on a low food clock, so the counter here says 0 days worth of food. That's always a bad sign. And our fella Rolly here finally is immune against the infection in his body, in her body, sorry. Rolly just doesn't sound too feminine to me. And our main goal for today's episode will be to set up the rest of the defenses here and start some larger game hunting. I want to introduce that to you here as well. And we're going to start out with researching, because with a tribal start you really need the tech. And therefore we're going to do some tech. So for that we're going to slap down one extra torch here. And we're going to begin with that. Simple research bench requires steel. We don't have any steel yet, so that's something we have to take care of as well, but luckily there's some steel here in the mountain. In Rimworld you can dig out steel and components directly out of a mountain. Don't judge. It's exactly as realistic as it sounds. So we're not going to wait to until the rest of the night is passed, and then we're going to draft some people here to get the hunt on something which we can actually live off, because all that stuff we're planting out, it'll take a while until it's finally there. So here's a bunch of elk. We're not going to go against these. Simple reason for that, it's 4 elk, and if they decide to fight against us, we're in really big trouble. Let's not do that. Instead, we're going to go for the deer. So that's a little bit of a knowledge thing, and for some reason, the elk here has no revenge chance on attack, so should be actually safe to attack, but I'm a little bit scared. You never know what really attacks and what doesn't. And if you don't know, go for that what you know that doesn't kill you. And I know that deer don't kill us. But obviously these seem to be safe as well. I think I'm mixing them up with a caribou. Yeah, the caribou has the revenge chance, so know your horned animal in the boreal forest. These are dangerous to attack, and the elk aren't, so we're going to hunt some elk. Okay, sorry for the confusion. But it's really important to check out before you hunt whether or not it will fight back when you shoot it, because that's really, really important. Okay, so we got ourselves only one person with a ranged weapon. We have in our possession here another ranged weapon, the Pila, and another short bow. So we're going to check on out who's the next best person to pick that up. Yeah, that's our dude Sutit. So we're going to give him that short bow there. And Vunas and him, they're going to go for a bit of a hunt there today. So when you're hunting larger things, it really pays off to pick up more people for that. Or if you have large guns, you can of course let that get done by one person, but the experience has shown me that if you let this happen automatically, it takes days, and your people are really, really making it really dumb. I can't put it in different words. And here, as you see there, when we're attacking them, they're moving away, and the automatic hunting AI does not really optimize your positioning for the shots or anything. They just do whatever they do. And you see there, even though we're hitting that thing spot on several times, the elk really needed a lot of hits before it went down. We're not going to hunt anything else now. That one animal is enough. The thing is, we don't have any particular methods to preserve food there, and that means whatever we hunt has to be used up quite quickly. So let's see how much food we get out of one of those elk. You can check out the amount of meat on one of the animals directly before shooting them. If you press the eye here, you see that there is here the meat amount. So technically the elk has 294 units of meat on its bone. Practically you never get out that number though, because the skill of the cook plays a role. You see, we got 186 out there. Cook skill plays a role, whether or not you use a butcher table or not plays a role, and I think how many body parts are missing from the corpse is also playing a role. Welcome to the detailed world of Rimworld. So, but the good story about that, one elk lasts us through 2 days. So let's check this out. Meat is rotting during 2 days. Meals are rotting during 4 days. So we could kill another one, and we'd be well off with that. So let's do that. Let's draft those 2 bodies once more. And then we're going to get ourselves another elk. Next thing we're also going to do is we're going to craft ourselves some recurve bows. Because that's one of the wonderful things the Rival Start has in store for you. You get to start on out with the technology for recurve bows. The Crash Landed Start doesn't start with that one, and recurve bows are actually quite good weapons. They have a decent range, good damage, good armor penetration, just their attack speed sucks. That's their big downside. So let's check it out. We have mined out the steel there. We have a little bit of steel in our possession now, and the research table is coming together. We're chopping down trees at our home base. We are now on a okay food situation. So far so good. That's how it should look like. And I avoid over stockpiling now with the food, because there's nothing more useless than the food going bad there. So we're just keeping as much as we need. There we go. Also, there's some black magic involved. When you cook some meat, it's going to be spoiled in like 2 hours, and you make some meal out of it. It magically lasts 4 days again. It's one trick you can't really use well. This also works with corpses. You can basically butcher a corpse that's gonna spoil in 2 hours. You receive meat that lasts 2 days. You can store that for another 2 days, cook it then, and then it lasts for another 4 days. There's power in storing food without refrigeration if you think about it more closely. It just sucks micromanagement-wise. But I just want to introduce that so you can choose for yourself how deep your micromanagement should go. So Rolly and Gray have become lovers. Wonderful. So that means they'll want to be sleeping together, and we're going to work on that. So we've gained some plain leather from our hunting ops. Hunting is really important in the early stages of the game for a tribal start. Here's double bedroll. Let's build that. And let's see who's my main constructor again. Opossum and Runas. So let's see. Opossum is working on traps, which is right now way more important. Runas is chilling. She can go for some extra shift there. There we go. And now let's set the owners. We get their Rolly and oh yeah, okay. So here's the thing. Our ideology demands that these people have married before they are allowed to sleep together in one bed. So sucks to be them. This is something you can configure in the ideology. We might be doing that in the course of the time, but now we're not worried too much about ideology. But this is how you would do it if your ideology wouldn't forbid it. But at the end of the day, they will eventually marry, and then they can enjoy their loving. So that's okay. Let's set up a marriage spot before they want to marry. Otherwise, they start marrying at the weirdest spots. Okay, we haven't finished our defenses yet. So I don't want to issue too many new jobs for now, because I want to make sure that they get the job done here next. Because these defense lines here, they are really important for me. There's one thing though that I'm going to rush, and that's the research bench. Unless we're botching it. There we go. And now we can assign somebody to the research. So let's check it out. Our dude Rolly is the ideal candidate for that. So priority 1, as you see there, Rolly does not really have any jobs that are more important than that. I'm going to set mining on a top-notch priority. This way Rolly will be always researching or mining. And since I don't have mining jobs permanently online, this should work quite well. We're also going to give our buddy Rolly here some comfort by providing a stool. You know, when you have workbenches where people work for several hours, it really pays off to give them some sitting furniture. So we have now access to research. Research works quite simple. You assign somebody schedule-wise the way that they research, and then you select what you want to be researched. You provide a table, and then they go and research. That's all. So we're going to start on out with complex furniture, because I really feel like that's one of the major stepping stones for our colony. And another thing I want to set on up here is a crafting spot. So at the crafting spot we can craft things. Innovative design, isn't it? So we're going to select here the recurve bow, because the recurve bows are just one staple weapon of this slot here. We should use them. So you see crafting here. Well, it's a little bit odd. It triggers on smithing. Okay, don't ask why making a bow is smithing, but making weapons in Rimworld is always smithing. So that's how the game perceives that. We have to accept that. But making weapons is always linked to the smithing activity here. So that means technically I think Gray should be starting to do that at some point, as soon as the other jobs here have been done. But that's okay, we don't need to rush the production of these. The only thing that I want to rush here is this area here. But as a matter of fact, this corridor here is already armed and ready, so we're pretty okay with that. Another thing I noticed, I want to have a door here. I find that so comic, such a comically weird design here, that we can slap in doors into these walls, and the raiders will never get it. Like, they'll never be like, oh, that's looking like a weak spot in their defenses. Let's bash in that door. No, no. They don't even realize it's a door unless you show them. That's, you know, Rimworld weirdnesses. You learn to work around it, and you learn to live it and love it. So Rolly here, as you see, is generating research points. Once that bar is full, we have access to real furniture. Ha, can't wait. Until then, we're going to live the good life. We will now, let's see. There's not really much that I can do in between. Gray is now finally crafting those recurve bows. And of course, I think one smart thing to do would be to think now of where we want to expand ourselves and how. Because, you know, it's always worth it to think a little bit ahead. And I don't like to have idle times. So one thing we can do, which is a damn cheap thing to do and does still provide a lot of improvement, is we're going to slap in wooden floors into all these rooms. Normally I'm not promoting wooden floors because, you know, it makes the room quite flammable. But with the tribal start, you are stuck with flammable rooms for such a darn long time. Might as well have some nice looking floor, because that's really good for the mood of the people. Fancy looking floor is something they like. And if those poor suckers can't have real beds, come on.
They have floors but no beds?
Yes, we don't have beds. So beds have to be researched, and that's what we're doing right now. Complex furniture is not given at the tribal start, and that's why we do it like that. But check out this room here. This is now a dull bedroom, and compare it to one of these. This is an awful bedroom. I mean, dull is not necessarily a charming word for your environment, but it's still better than awful. I would prefer dull over awful at any time of the day. So right now, if you want to work harder on this, you can also set up plant pots. You can also make them out of wood if there's not all the wood already choked down in your colony, but that's not a big surprise here. We're making everything out of wood, so I'm assigning a big fat chopping area here. Okay, so the lucky people here have now bedrolls. Let's see, how many bedrolls could I make? I have 40 light leather and 40 bird skin, so we can issue a couple of extra sleeping spots here. The good ones, you know. There we go. But as soon as we have researched complex furniture, we're also going to be able to just build ourselves real beds. These are actually even better than bedrolls, but the thing is, neither light leather nor bird skin are particularly desirable materials to craft clothing out of or equipment because they literally suck, you know? They have bad stats. It's even in the description. You have worse stats all over the board if you work with these materials. So they're basically good for two things. Furniture and clothing that you just want to sell. You can upscale the worth of your bird skin by crafting a piece of clothing out of it. It's going to be worth more than just selling the bird skin raw, but it's still going to be a terrible piece of clothing that should be made out of a better material instead. That's just what I'm trying to say. So we do see some pemmican here. So our people have made berries and elk meat. They have mixed berries and elk meat together and made some pemmican out of that, which is pretty great because when you check out pemmican, that's lasting now 1.2 years, and that's why we also do all that agriculture. That's a wonderful thing about the tribal start. Since you start out with pemmican, as soon as you have some agriculture running, which provides you with some veg, you have really no problems with the longevity of your food. I personally think that if you rely a lot on your freezers, this is a perfect lesson to learn to live without a freezer. You will notice that it's not really that necessary at all. You could technically even live without it, but it's practically very useful to have ways and means to stockpile food without having to process it first. Alright, so here I'm chopping huge amounts of wood there because, you know, it never hurts to have that. And meanwhile, Rowley is now working on the research bench all day long, and I can only approve that. The thing is, it's not really visible at the first glance, but the tribals have one really huge downside. Every technology costs you double the amount of research points. I think not every research. Some of these researches are not scaling as hard as that. It's like our faction tech level is Neolithic. And there you see it's changing up the things, and here project base cost becomes 3,200, and here we only have a 50% increase, so because that's a medieval tech and that's an industrial tech. So basically the further away the tech is from your faction's technological level, the harder the punishment goes. So long story short, when you're playing tribals, research that takes a lot longer. So you better have somebody who's constantly researching in the first place and right from the get-go. You have 5 people after all to start with, so you kind of like start with the resources for that. A good alternative to complex furniture would also be stone cutting, because once you have stone cutting, you can also set up the stone cutter's table, and then we get the ability to replace all those walls, those wooden walls, with proper stone walls, which is a huge upgrade, because then you must not fear the storm anymore. Especially the dry thunderstorms can really be a kick in the groin when you're playing with a wooden base, because all it takes are 1 or 2 bad timed lightning strikes and you're really in a pickle. So let's check it out. We have one of the recurve bows already produced and the other 2 aren't there yet, but we're going to equip one of them. Let's see. Satit is the better shot, so he's going to receive that. Just want to give you a quick impression about the differences here. So the short bow has 3 points less damage, and if you compare the range, that's 23. And we have a total of 3 seconds shooting time. And now let's check this thing out. You have a little bit more range, and you have pretty much the same firing speed, but you have way more damage. And also, if I remember correctly, the accuracy is also quite a lot better. Long story short, recurve bows are just a flat-out upgrade compared to the short bow. I wouldn't know why I would prefer a short bow over a recurve bow if I had the choice between both weapons. Not at all. It's a different thing with a great bow there, since we're at it right now. The great bow is a long-range weapon. It has high damage, but its aiming time and range cooldown are a little bit higher. Check if I'm not saying something wrong here. Yeah, here you have a total of 3.05 seconds to fire a shot, and here it's 3.5 seconds, so it's a tad bit longer. But there, you get to shoot a lot further with that thing, you know. You get a range of 30. That's 7 cells more. That's quite a lot. So, the next wonderful thing here is we have a quest which introduces the royalty to us. We're going to take that because I wanted to showcase all the different DLCs in this series. So this quest is quite simple. One whiny little dude from the local empire, I'm not making this up, it's just how the quest is working, like, is being followed by a man-hunting cat. At least it's not a chihuahua or something like that. Sometimes we had a rat too. But long story short, we have to protect that dude for a while. We have to kill off the cat, and then we get a big chunk of honor. And honor is basically the currency which makes you eligible to rise up in the ranks of the empire and learn psycasting. So one thing is pretty good to know in beforehand. You should pick up somebody who's somewhat decent at social if you want to make a real nobleman out of him. But we don't really have anybody here. I'm going to pick up Roly here because I don't want to put psycasts on Gray, simply because Gray is non-violent, and you know, this can be really a wasted opportunity. So we're going to accept that for Roly. Always check on out who you want to bestow the honor upon. And now this dude is joining us, and I'm pressing R to draft him, and we're going to move him into our base. So speed up the game a tad bit. And this is a very high-ranking official from the Empire. So that's a pretty important person. And now we have the warning, man-hunting cat. Here it goes. And we're going to bring... Let's see, Sutit is right around the corner there. We're going to let him do that. If you lose track of where these critters are, you can always check the wildlife tab. The manhunters are marked with a red lightning bolt icon, so you can see that quite directly. So we're going to pick up Bunas as well, because, you know, why not? And here goes the cat. It's not particularly dangerous or anything, but as you see here, this is a nice kiting trick. I'm picking up Sutit, and I'm letting him run in circles, hoping that Venus is getting a shot in, and this way we can't kill off that thing. And here, cat is sometimes switching targets. As you see here now, it's chasing Vunas and no longer Sutit, so we're changing people here now. This is, you don't need to do that. Technically, Sutit and Vunas would be totally able to slap that kitten down without being particularly in danger or anything. But I personally love to avoid wounded people at all costs in this game, because you saw how quickly somebody can score in an infection in the last episode, and an infection costs you medicine, pins down the person to the bed for a couple of days. It's all in all really just not worth it. And with some walking and jiggling around, the more you do this, the more you grow accustomed to it, and the easier it goes. So, here we go. I'm going to demonstrate that method a lot during the series, so here we go. Kapus is now gone, and Roly is now officially been promoted into a freeholder title, and then right away into the title of a yeoman. I'm going to show you how this works now. So, You have here freeholder title. If you click that, you can see the entire information here. So the Empire has this hierarchy here. We started out as the freeholder, that's the lowest rank, then we transformed into yeoman. Up here you see how much honor you need for the next ranks, and so on and so forth. Acolyte rank, knight rank, praetor, baron, count, and the count is, as far as I know, the highest thing that you can play directly. So there is a limit. You cannot transform your people into a Stellarch or something like that. Yeah, here, earnable titles, it stops at the count rank, and the other titles are just for fluff. So that's a long road. We're going to document how that works over the course of the series, of course. Until then, our yeoman Roly has now the ability to become bestowed with a Psylink. So we're going to accept that right away. And now people are landing here. Those cool looking guys, they're going to assign some Psycasting to our savages. They really look kind of like off here at this place, don't they? So what you gotta do now, we select Roly, right click that dude, and begin the bestowing ceremony. You have now here a bit of a window there. You could basically optimize the ceremony here, but at this point this doesn't play any role. We're just going to say begin, because we can't provide a more impressive room here at this point, and it's not that important in the first place. Once Roly will become a higher ranking person in the Empire, we would pay more attention to where we do the bestowing ceremony, but right now it really doesn't play a big role. So you have here now an unimpressive ceremony, so there was not really anything good happening there, but you'll never have a failure of the actual thing, the person becoming yeoman and receiving their Psylink. So what has happened now is Roly is now a spellcaster. Hooray! So Psylink, you see it there? And on the bio tab, you see the skill they learned. So Roly can now summon a solar pinhole. That's a skill which allows you to create a light, a magic light, so to say. It's a magical light spell. It's just as impressive as it sounds, but it's also the lowest tier Psycasting stuff, so let's not be too demanding here. So another thing I want to do, I want to remove all those stone chunks here a bit, because they are actually slowing people down. As a matter of fact, these stone chunks, you can stand behind them and take cover from incoming shots as well. They serve as a Neolithic barricade of sorts. So that doesn't change too much for Roly, and the real differences only happen as soon as Roly will advance past the Yeoman title. What you have to pay attention towards and whatnot, we're going to explore over the course of the series, of course. So we're low on food again, so that means we're not going to touch the caribou here as much as I want to, but no. We'll check this out. So looks like the wolf was busy here. Yeah, Timber Wolf was busy. So we're going to grab ourselves some leftovers from the Timber Wolf. Sadly, I didn't pay attention here. That's one fun thing that you can do. Predators are constantly killing off animals on the map, and they rarely eat all the carcass, and therefore you can knock yourself out and get yourself some free food there, which you don't need to hunt in anything. Alright, so there's also a first harvest of strawberries in. That's also pretty good news. But we, all in all, I think we'll need more agricultural space there, so let's slap down another growing zone. I mean, the year is nearing its end, so I don't want to plant out too much, but some potatoes will go. The thing is, on this tile we have 30 days of growing time and 30 days of non-growing time. That's basically the gist of it. Okay. So we have now 1 day of food in the storage. Corpses, by the way, don't get counted into the food clock. Let me show you. Once we have butchered that now, the food clock goes up. So stored corpses don't reflect into your total storage. You should pay attention to that. Okay, so let's get ourselves another recurve bow for Vunas. There we go. The second one has been crafted. And our buddies Vunas and Satit will go for another hunt there. I would love to take down the caribou there, but I don't want to take any unnecessary risk there today. Instead, we're going to take down that ibex here. When you're doing things like that, also pay attention that stray bullets can happen. So if that ibex is ever standing in a way, or in an angle that you could hit, for example, those caribou accidentally, they will turn hostile on you. And also, when the animals are getting too close to the map's border, stand like this. This way the animal will run back into the map. Because they will run off the map if you force them too hard. And then sometimes you lose an entire hunt. Because, you know, obvious reasons. So, let's see. We could go for a proper caribou hunt here. Come on, let's do this. So, for that case, we're going to draft the entire tribe. That's the first thing we gotta do. That's really, really important. When you want to do something which is potentially dangerous, gather up the entire buddies there. And then we pick up the people that can shoot, and now we start shooting. And here at this point, I'm paying attention to the health of that thing. So there we go. Let's follow them. Following only the that particular animal there. And now we're going to get another salvo in. Possibly. Yeah, well. They'll do it eventually. So. And that's all it takes. So when you want to kill off something potentially dangerous, it really pays off to get some shots in. Oh, it took a trap now. To get some shots in until it is somewhat wounded, and then you let just the time do the rest of the trick. Because there's really no reason to keep shooting until that thing turns hostile on you. You gain nothing out of that. You can wait until they collapse, then you issue the hunting order, and then you can just right-click, prioritize hunting. That's that. Done. Alright, so that's all that I wanted to introduce for this episode. We have learned about research, we have learned about how to hunt bigger game. A lot of things have happened in between. I hope you found that enlightening. So, leave me comments, leave me questions, whatever is on your mind. I love to hear from you guys. Leave me a thumbs up on that episode if you enjoyed it, and of course, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. There's also a link to the playlist, so if you want to watch that from episode 1, check out the description box. And there's also links to support this channel. There's PayPal, Patreon, and Buy Me Coffee as ways and means to support me, and I'd be really delighted if you'd give them a look. So, enjoy gaming. I hope you can enjoy some Rimworld for yourself, and hopefully see you on the next one. Bye-bye.